I felt the shift in the room the instant Vanessa Klein walked in. She moved like someone who had already won the argument before anyone else opened their mouth. Her heels clicked sharply across the polished floor of the conference room at Vanguard Tech Finance in Midtown Manhattan. She wore a fitted navy sheath dress that looked expensive but practical, the kind favored by women climbing the corporate ladder fast. Two junior analysts trailed her, tablets in hand, faces blank like they were programmed to agree. Without wasting time on small talk, Vanessa clicked the remote. The screen lit up with a sleek deck titled Efficiency Overhaul, Eliminating Legacy Drag. Bullet points flashed: cost optimization, digital-first compliance, streamlined risk protocols. She smiled that tight professional smile, lips pressed thin, and delivered the news like it was just another agenda item. After reviewing mid to senior compliance positions, we've identified redundancies. Effective immediately. Thomas Hale is no longer with the company. The words landed heavy. No warning. No transition plan. No acknowledgement of the years Thomas had spent as the unspoken backbone of our covenant monitoring. Thomas didn't flinch. He sat there a moment, absorbing it, then quietly gathered his badge, a worn leather notebook, and that distinctive red-tabbed binder he'd carried for as long as anyone could remember. The binder had survived multiple system migrations, regulatory audits, and at least 2 CEOs. To Vanessa, it was just outdated paperwork slowing down approvals. The room stayed silent. I noticed the subtle signs, though. Our risk VP leaning back with crossed arms, jaw tight. A senior analyst named Sarah stopping mid-keystroke. No one spoke up. Thomas walked out without a scene, head high but expression unreadable, like a man who had already calculated the next moves. That afternoon, I started paying closer attention to the dashboards. Thomas had been the last holdout with manual sign-off authority on several embedded covenant checkpoints, legacy safeguards from when the firm was smaller and more cautious about exposure. Vanessa's new auto-approval workflows had replaced them. But something felt off. One critical field was simply gone: the legacy risk confirmation that required analyst review before escalating debt service thresholds. By the end of the first week, Vanessa was already touting her lean operations wins. Pastel charts showed projected savings of over $250,000 from trimming non-essential roles. She sipped her overpriced cold brew from a mug that read "Innovate Ruthlessly" and pitched to the board how automation replaced human bottlenecks. But I saw the gaps. Buried deep in the compliance module, the manual review layer had been swapped for an auto-check marked "Not Applicable" system validated. No one questioned it publicly. Velocity was up. Complaints down. I began making my own notes and backups. Thomas wasn't the type to leave without a trace. He was methodical, almost obsessive about documentation. He'd built guardrails most of us never noticed until they were missing. And missing guardrails don't announce themselves, they just let the fall happen quietly. The first real hint came via Slack from Ryan, a newer analyst still meticulous about details. Hey, did Covenant Field 42B always require manual confirmation? I stared at the message. Yes. Always Thomas's domain. That field was our pressure valve for Tier B liquidity escalations. It rarely triggered, but when ratios dipped critically, it halted deals cold. Now it auto-approved under a new rule buried in the update notes. Vanessa had pushed the change through ops without broad review, calling legacy checks nostalgic drag. She kept the momentum going, prepping for a major fintech conference in Chicago, where she'd present on cutting compliance noise. Meanwhile, I learned Thomas had used personal time off during his final days. Reception logs showed a visitor badge for a meeting at Allied Midwest Bank's downtown branch. A courier receipt later appeared for a delivery to their risk oversight team, contents listed as historical covenant logs. Internal reference only. Thomas hadn't stormed out or sent angry emails. He'd simply transferred the map of every safeguard Vanessa's updates quietly erased. He handed over the binder with 8 quiet words to the lending compliance lead. Page 42 needs your attention first. Then he walked away, knowing gravity still applied even if the firm had stopped checking. 2 weeks in, the office hummed with forced optimism. Vanessa floated between meetings, spinning growth projections for a $45 million revolving credit facility from Allied Midwest. She called it our liquidity bridge to expansion. Bullet points in her emails highlighted streamlined covenant workflows as a key efficiency gain. The deal felt locked, almost. But then the bank's compliance head, a measured executive named Marcus Reed, replied with a routine request: speak with any former officers familiar with legacy covenant protocols. Vanessa laughed it off in our sync call. Pure formality. Everything's covered digitally now. She drafted a response confirming no active manual personnel remained. That should have been the end of it. But, quietly, through back channels, Marcus's team reached our internal compliance coordinator, a no-nonsense veteran named Carla. Carla didn't forward the email or add emojis. She picked up her desk phone and called Thomas directly. 3 days later, his name appeared on the guest list for the credit review. Thomas Hale, external observer, bank liaison. Vanessa missed it entirely, buried in visitor summaries and legal filings. I saw it and watched Thomas arrive early on the meeting day. Same gray blazer from years past. Same messenger bag. Same calm face that revealed nothing. He sat in the back, folder ready, looking inevitable. The weeks after Thomas's departure felt deceptively smooth on the surface. Vanessa pushed harder on her transformation narrative. Analysts clapped at her presentations about machine learning handling what humans once babysat. But the cracks were widening in the logs. Multiple fields that once required Thomas's sign-off now auto-resolved without alerts. One in particular, a clause on high-risk subcategory thresholds tied to cash flow below 1.5x and stacked exposure over 20%, had vanished from active monitoring. Ryan followed up on Slack again, more insistent this time. The missing review had blocked a small internal test deal the previous quarter. Now, with the big credit line looming, the autoskip felt like Russian roulette. I started cross-checking old exports against current workflows. The discrepancies piled up. Phantom cleanups, missing timestamps, overrides without dual authorization. Vanessa remained unfazed. In a Monday leadership huddle, she reassured everyone that trusting the system was the modern compliance model. Manual nostalgia slows us down. Algorithms flag issues faster. Her confidence was magnetic, almost convincing, until you looked at the fine print. I couldn't shake the feeling Thomas had prepared for this. His off-site lunch with the bank wasn't casual. The courier delivery confirmed it. That binder contained the full history, every flagged breach, every handwritten notation that the new digital system had overwritten without trace. Page 42 specifically documented a prior Tier B threshold breach that had never been formally closed through proper channels before his exit. It sat there like a dormant wire. As the credit committee date approached, the office buzzed with manic energy. Projected leverage numbers made everyone giddy. Vanessa referred to the facility as our expansion accelerator in emails CC'd company-wide. But Marcus Reed's team kept probing politely, original sign-off trails for any legacy covenant amendments. A junior finance associate, fresh out of grad school, was tasked with pulling version histories. What he found stopped him cold, a log entry from 2 months prior showing Thomas flagging the exact threshold breach. No resolution recorded. The system update post-termination had artificially cleared it without human sign-off. It was a ghost fix, illegal in spirit if not letter. The junior escalated it up. His manager went pale. Word spread in whispers. Did anyone actually review the terms? Who signed off on clearing that clause? When exactly did the flag get buried? The conference room for the final review felt electric with unspoken dread. White walls. Loud AC. Everyone acting too normal. Vanessa took the head seat like a queen on her throne. She adjusted her sleeves, nodded to the remote participants, and launched her deck. Strategic liquidity alignment, accelerated approval phase. She opened strong, crediting the streamlining for faster movement. Polite nods followed. Marcus Reed sat opposite, flipping through his prep packet slowly, underlining, occasionally glancing over his glasses like a hunter listening for movement. Thomas sat far down the table, unassuming. Notepad closed. Presence subtle until you noticed the red-tabbed folder in front of him. Vanessa breezed through forecast models and efficiency scenarios. The room annotated, but tension hummed underneath. Then Thomas moved deliberate. No flourish. He slid the folder across the table toward Marcus. No words. Just paper gliding silently. Vanessa paused mid-sentence. Marcus raised a hand. Open the folder. Inside, the original Covenant report with Thomas's flagged red notation on the breach, and the system export showing post-termination override tied to Vanessa's admin ID. The room went graveyard quiet. Vanessa tried recovering. That must be outdated. Marcus cut in flatly. This is incomplete and contradicts our received reporting. Legal asked if it was breach material. Thomas stayed silent. The folder spoke for him. I saw it coming. I warned internally. You erased the trail. You can spin it. But here's the truth. Marcus flipped pages. Highlighting. Circling. The breach summary hit like a hammer. The clause was ironclad. Unmitigated covenant breach with deactivated safeguard allowed the bank to freeze or revoke the facility pending full investigation. Vanessa had signed off on that language herself, calling it standard downside protection. Would someone explain this? Marcus asked, voice level but cutting. No one answered immediately. Vanessa's face drained of color. Knuckles white on the remote. Thomas simply nodded when asked if he had flagged it while employed. Yes. Cleared after? No. Silence thickened. Everyone recalculated their DNO coverage in their heads. Vanessa's voice cracked when she spoke. No malicious intent. We were optimizing inefficient legacy structures. Marcus replied calmly, legacy structures are only redundant until they're your last line of defense. He asked about the physical binder. Thomas confirmed and placed the original on the table, handwritten, dated, signed, untouched by digital edits. Proof in paper form. The mood pivoted entirely. No more talk of dashboards or velocity. All eyes turned to who held the real records now. It wasn't the system. It wasn't Vanessa. It was Thomas, the man they let go. Marcus didn't rush. He let the evidence sit there, then stated the protocol clearly. The facility would be suspended immediately pending breach review. Documentation to follow within the hour. No drama. Just final business. Vanessa jolted. That's premature. We're not in breach. Marcus didn't engage on intent. The trigger had been pulled. Safeguard removed post-flagging. She scrambled for system logs, audit trails. But the updates she championed had purged rollback history on legacy fields. Her own efficiency drive had deleted her safety net. The room watched in heavy silence as her authority evaporated. Our risk officer quietly texted Thomas, leadership asking if he'd consult temporarily. He didn't acknowledge his phone visibly. The offer was necessity, not favor. Marcus stood, requested the binder. Thomas handed it over cleanly. No gloating. Then he left the room quietly, the weight shifting with him. Vanessa slumped, lips moving without sound, protests dying unspoken. Legal scribbled furiously. Exec whispers began under the table. In the following days, internal chaos brewed beneath polished memos about process reevaluation. A tense shareholder call ended with Vanessa muted mid-sentence. 2 weeks later, a terse announcement. Vanessa Klein stepping down for personal reasons. No farewell. No recognition. Just a quiet exit and the corporate understanding that personal meant indefensible. HR posted the new role fast. Covenant Integrity Liaison. External bridge to lenders with veto on safeguards. The phrasing made clear the power shift. The next morning, Thomas walked back through the doors. Same blazer. Same calm. New badge for external consultant status. People stepped aside respectfully. Silence carried the weight of renewed trust. His new office was glass-walled, near legal, visible, quiet. A fresh red-tabbed binder waited. Initials embossed. But the original now sat framed in the main corridor outside the boardroom. UV protected. With a plaque, historical covenant log, tier breach prevented $45 million facility active. Staff passed it daily. Some paused to read. Others glanced, feeling its quiet authority. Marcus returned later without briefcase, just to stand before the framed case. He tapped the glass lightly. This file protected $45 million. Keep it close. Thomas nodded without smiling. He didn't need to. The firm adjusted slowly. New protocols restored balanced oversight, digital speed with human checkpoints. Covenants weren't dismissed as legacy anymore. The cost of ignoring them had been too visible. Yet the story lingered in conversations over coffee, in late-night reflections. Vanessa's ambition wasn't evil, just blinded by metrics. She saw bloat where there was wisdom. Thomas never sought revenge. He preserved truth. What stayed with me most was the fragility of systems we trust blindly. Automation promises efficiency, but can't replace the person who remembers why the rules existed. In the end, the quiet expert with the binder reminded us, some safeguards only reveal their value when removed. The framed binder still hangs there, a monument not to victory, but to the cost of forgetting the humans behind the numbers. Every time I pass it, I wonder, how many other invisible protections have we automated away without noticing? And who will be left holding the record when they fail?